My name is Jamie. I work at GameSparks. I'm not even sure if I need this microphone because you're all sitting right in front of me, but I'll use it anyway for the camera. So I work with GameSparks, and GameSparks is a games as a service platform. But what that really means is it's a back-end tool for game developers, for you to develop your game, all your server-side components for the game, and as well you can manage the game post-launch, which is what live operations is. You can build a game, but the real key and the real benefit of using a tool like GameSparks is the live operations component of it. But before I get into that, I want to give you a bit of a rundown on my background. I went to college to study digital media and game design. So that's what my degree is, and that's what I was studying. All throughout that time, I was working in sales, typical selling, advertising space, that kind of stuff in local media. And all that time making games in my spare time. And straight out of college, I got a job for a company called Savvy Bear. And would you look at that? Isn't that beautiful graphics? Some of the finest stuff you've ever seen. This was a very early iteration of the game. This is before I came on board. But the guys that built Savvy Bear, they had very unique ideas. I suppose, they had a lot of management problems, but they had a lot of interesting ideas. And one of them was their ways of raising money. And they used these art assets. This is programmer art, which are hands up who's a developer, by the way, and two developers. Hands up who's into art or is an artist. No artists? All right. So as a developer, you guys will know that when you're making your own games, you're going to do some programmer art. You're going to do the art yourself, and that's what this is. But these guys used the game that they had built, a multiplayer kids game similar to the likes of Moshi Monsters or Club Penguin, and this is what they built. And they brought this to Dragon's Den. You guys, are you familiar with Dragon's Den? It's a TV show where you pitch your products or pitch your designs, and they'll basically judge you, and if they like your product, they'll invest in you. But it's a big spectacle. It's famous in many countries, including Ireland, America, England, all those type of places. So this guy went on TV with this horrible art assets and pitched this game to the people. But because it was a kids' educational game, it went down really well. And using the money they got the investment, the largest investment in Ireland, by the way, which is where this company is based and where I'm from. So they used that money to hire an artist, and this is the next stage that they got to. And it was around this stage these guys started to think about live operations. Hi, welcome. So they had the game at this stage. It was a browser-based game, again, similar to Moshi Monsters and Club Penguin. And this is where they really started to invest in more into the game design. So these guys were very focused because this was a kids game on making a game based with nice art. And this was the first stage of good art that they got. I mean, it's still not great. The animations weren't great, but it was definitely a step up to what we've seen just before, which was that. So they got to here, and this is around the time I came on board. And my job at the company was to port the game to mobile, but also build some tools that will allow us to manage the game once it was live, which we've done. We ported the game to mobile, iOS, Android, and this is what it looked like. Much better art, obviously. You could see there's a lot more time put into it, and very kid-focused, so it's a very kid-friendly game, but it was very educational as well. So the guys that developed this game, they knew people understood that games required good art. And I mean, for a kids game, this from A/B testing, they responded to this style of art very well. Definitely a lot more than they did to this style of art. So they had their good art and they were happy with it. They knew art was good, they knew you needed good art. And a lot of games, obviously, these days, the art in it is top quality, whether it's a 3D game or whether it's a 2D game. You get games like, The Unfinished Swan, or you get games like The Witness, which you just know, looking at them, they're art. There's no argument about it anymore. There used to be, a long time ago, our game's art. This just doesn't happen anymore. The Unfinished Swan, if you haven't played it, I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with it. You literally paint your surroundings in the game. And The Witness, when I first made this talk, it just come out, and it has to be one of the most beautiful games I've ever played. So the art was appealing, definitely, but you need more than that in the game. But I wanted to highlight this picture as a demonstration of how much of art is in this game. Has anyone seen this picture before? Does it stand out in any way? It's just a generic landscape. But if you tilt your head to the left, and this is an actual scene in the game, this is a screenshot from a first-person perspective. If you tilt your head to the left, you'll see why this is actually a pretty unique piece in the game. And you wouldn't spot that normally, but you're literally browsing around and you come to this landscape and you have to literally tilt your head to the left to see anything interesting there, but otherwise it's just a load of rocks when really it's actually a woman praying. So I mean, art is just top quality art is just a standard in games. So people have decided to start to change their focus. Developers have started to change their focus. Art is no longer an issue. Everybody expects good art. Art should be good in the game, and whether it's like good pixel art, good 3D art, or whatever art style you're going for, the graphics are always going to be good now, and that's just a fact of the matter. It's not a selling point anymore. It's in no way you don't sell it based on like turbo graphics or whatever it is. It's always based on gameplay, and developers have started to look at games in a different way. From what I've been dealing with anyway. And they start to look at games more, and the people that play it as a community. They start to respond to what players are doing, respond to what players are requesting, and responding to everything they say through Twitter, through Facebook, through whatever social media, whether it's their own forums or wherever it may be. They're responding to that and they're changing the game based on that. And that's what live operations is. You're changing the game on the fly. So a good example of that, and this isn't a game that uses GameSparks, but it's one of my favorite games at the minute. I'm playing quite a lot of it. It's Ubisoft's Rainbow Six. Has anyone played this? Nobody? So you'll probably be familiar with what it is. It's a first-person shooter. It's very slow-paced. It's nothing like Call of Duty. It's 5v5. There's no running and jumping and jetpacking through the air. It's very tactical and it's very slow. And in my opinion, it's the best first-person shooter in many years. And I haven't been a fan of them since probably Modern Warfare 1 because they're all very, very similar. But these guys took a very different approach. They're very, very concerned about what the players are doing, how the players are reacting, and how the players are giving them feedback. You can see what we have here, that the percentage they have is the win ratio between the attacking team and the defending team. And it's nearly 50-50, which means it's a very balanced game. And how they did that is through live operations. They can tweak everything that's going on in the game while it's live. So let's say you have your 3 characters that are the most picked on the left and the 3 on the defending team that are most picked. But if somebody's overpowered or too strong, these guys can be tweaked and changed on the fly while the game is live, and it happens immediately. You don't have to wait for a new update to come to have some changes made to a player or to nerf a player's gun or to make it more powerful. You can do it on the fly. And here's just some more of the statistics that these games are providing and these games are checking. So you can see I took this screenshot in January. The game came out in December. You can see I had put at the time 91 hours into the game, so I'm a little bit addicted to it. But one of the other things they're doing that is also live operations, and you guys will be familiar with this as well, would be like daily challenges. So daily challenges, weekly challenges, schedule challenges, and live events. So they're always updating the game, they're always providing feedback, they're always getting feedback from their users and tweaking the game based on that. But updating the game on the go has its drawbacks. And one of the prime examples, again, with this game, they released an update in January, had some very, very bad issues, where the character animations were stuck in the T-pose half the time. So this is in-game footage. You can see here, this is a character scaling a wall, very similar to what this character is doing, but their animation isn't moving, but there's their gun down here. So no matter what they did, they were stuck in that T-pose. It was a big problem. But what Ubisoft did is they communicated with the players and said, we're aware of this issue, we weren't aware on launch, but we're definitely fixing it. And that update was put into the game. So when you boot up the game, a notification pops up saying, we're aware of this issue that the game is having, and we're gonna fix it, and we're gonna fix it as soon as possible, and we will keep you updated. So these guys were constantly communicating with their players and advising them that they're going to be changing the problems that the game is having since an update. And that, for me, as a player, was very, very beneficial. Because I was looking at this and I'm like, I can't play this game. I'm shooting the guy in the head when really his head is down here, and that just doesn't work. So it's just going right through him. So the game was unplayable, but I had no idea if they even acknowledged it, if they even were going to fix it, until I booted the game up and they told me. Which is live operations. You're managing your game, you're managing your players, and you're communicating on the fly, which is very, very important for a game. And this is a game that GameSparks actually uses. These guys actually use GameSparks, I should say. And you can see on the right-hand side, it's not in-your-face notifications. It's not push notifications that pop up on your phone. It's in-game or in-browser notifications. You get a little ding here, comes across, and these guys give you all the news that they have. So whatever you want to say to the player, and it could be about live events. You could say, this weekend we're having a special promotion on a certain gun. You can use your in-game currency to unlock it, or you can unlock it by getting 20 headshots or clearing 20 levels, whatever it may be. And that builds retention. That gets people coming back. You're communicating, you're letting them know exactly what's going to be happening at specific times. And that happens a lot around holidays. You'll have Christmas special bonuses. You'll have Halloween special bonuses. And as well as that, you can also, using live operations tools like GameSparks, you can push art assets specific for those events. So Halloween, you're going to have a lot of pumpkins. You're going to have a lot of that kind of stuff. And you can push that stuff through a live operations tool like GameSparks. And as I say, GameSparks is just a server-side tool you can develop the back end of your game. And I'm going to go into a little bit more about GameSparks itself now. The company itself was founded in 2013 by a bunch of guys from the UK and Ireland who had worked on a lot of the server-side functionalities for TV solutions you'll see around the world. The likes of the Sky streaming services, the Disney streaming services, AT&T, Fox, BBC, all those top-quality streaming services you see. The guys that built GameSparks originally had built all that. They sold that company, and because of their love of games, they decided to set up a similar type of company through GameSparks. Excuse me. So we launched in 2013. Since then, we've got some of the biggest companies in the world, and you can see them all listed there. The likes of Square Enix, Ubisoft, Bandai Namco, Amazon Game Studios, Capcom are all using GameSparks for these live operations tools. So we've been growing and growing and working with some of the biggest and best companies in the world, including the Polish-based Action Games Labs, who are sitting here as well, so I better give them a shout out. So yeah, so we're growing a lot. We're a server-side solution company, and we're definitely one of the leading providers in the world at the minute. We have a lot of competitors, and I've always told people to definitely go check them out and compare them against us for these type of tools. And we generally come out on top, and you can see by our client base that we are one of the leading in the world. But this is actually what GameSparks is. This is, when you log into GameSparks, this is what you see. And on the left-hand side, I've highlighted some of the core features that we provide. The likes of events, leaderboards, team-based leaderboards, virtual good management, achievement management, and multiplayer, so matchmaking and lobby building, as you would see in any standard shooter or competitive multiplayer game. We also have a cloud code functionality, which is very unique for game development. A good example of what people have been using that for is live attribute management for your players. So let's say you're on level 4 of a game, which should be generally considered very easy. You can store all your players and enemy attributes in this cloud code functionality that you see on the left-hand side. And you can tweak them on the fly. So you can have your enemy's health, your enemy's attack strength, your own health, your own attack strength, all stored in the cloud code. And your analytics will show that the players are struggling to complete that level. They will then just tweak the variable, tweak whatever the attack strength, tweak whatever it is, and make it live straight away. So they're correcting the issues that the game is having. And that's very beneficial throughout soft launch to A/B test and try different things. But it's also quite unique to have that as a tool once the game is live, because you could have a game-breaking bug later on in the game, and the game-breaking bug is caused by code you've stored on the cloud. So you can tweak it, change it, make it live straight away. So therefore, the issue isn't as big as an emergency where you may have to push an update through Apple or you may have to push an update to Google, which could take a while to get approved. You can make the changes and fix them straight away. Other features that you can see there would be the downloadable contents, so you can push new content through the cloud, or integration, so we can tie into various different platforms, including PlayStation, mobiles, iOS, Android, Xbox, pretty much anything you can, any of the major platforms. We even go to some of the smaller platforms, the likes of Viber. You can authenticate with. You can authenticate even with like WeChat and some of those smaller platforms. But all the major platforms are covered as well as some of the smaller ones. We have the other concepts at the bottom too, is properties and segments. Properties just allows you to take everything you see there and put your own custom spin on it. So let's say leaderboards, for example. We have a standard rules for leaderboards where it's done from best to worst, and it's a score-based leaderboard. But if you have something unique you want to put in there, you create a property for it and you can tie it into anything there. So it allows for a lot of customization as well. The bottom one then is segments, which is pretty cool because you can segment your back end for various different either player bases or countries or whatever it may be. So I'm Irish, so let's say Paddy's Day is coming. I can create a specific segment for Ireland and St. Patrick's Day, and I can push specific art assets just to Ireland for that specific week that Paddy's Day is happening. So it allows me to really tailor make my game towards specific user bases as well. And again, that's all what live operations is all about. It's managing your game once it's live, rather than just creating a game and releasing it to the world and hoping for the best. If your game's not working once it launches, you're going to need some of these tools to fix it. If it's not performing the way you want it to perform, you're going to need to make changes, and you're going to need to make them as soon as possible. And using a live operations tool like this allows you to do that. So here's just an example of some of the UI for like weapon strength for a game, or again in Rainbow Six you have weapon strength in certain ranges. So you have your variables all listed here for the various different weapons. So this is weapons for a long range game, or long range situation. So you can set the strength here, and if you're finding that obviously it's not strong enough or it's too weak, you can tweak that variable, click save, and it's live straight away. So it's allowing you to make the balance of your game on the fly. So you can see listed here just some of the core features of GameSparks, like the likes of live chat, leaderboards, multiplayer, whether it's real-time or turn-based, optimization and management tools. I'm not going to call them all out. You can, if you guys want to take a picture, or I'll share the slides, that's no problem at all. But it's just some of the tools that we cover. We do cover the main engines. We have an SDK for a lot of the main engines like Unity, Unreal, Marmalade, C++, Cocos 2D. And as I said, we can publish games to PC, Steam, console, mobile, whatever it takes. So again, just a breakdown of some of the core features like the player management tools, the social and multiplayer games. What's really interesting about a tool like GameSparks and being server-side is it's completely cross-platform. So you can have somebody who's playing a game on Facebook, for example, also playing against somebody who's playing on an Android device, or even on a console if needs be. I know Microsoft just announced that they're allowing cross-platform gaming, so anybody who's playing on a Microsoft console, whether it's PC or a console, like the Xbox, can play against somebody on the PlayStation 4. And using a tool like GameSparks, because it's completely cross-platform, allows you to do that. And the same goes for mobile. You can have somebody who's working on a mobile game, playing a mobile game, playing against someone who's on an iOS or an Android device. And what's cool about it is because it's all server-side and all the logic is stored server-side, you can have different types of games tied into each other. So you can have someone on a mobile device supporting a player who's playing on a console game. So you can do unique things like maybe you're managing the map and you're tagging stuff on the map on your phone to let the player who's playing a first-person game or a third-person game know where some hidden objects may be, or something like that. You'll see that in a lot more games coming now. And just to go through, and I'm going to kind of wrap it up now, and if anybody has any questions, feel free to ask me. These are just some games that are already using GameSparks, which is MMX Racing you see in the background. And obviously we do dynamic scaling, so you never have to worry about scaling of your game. So if you get millions of users in one day, we manage the scaling. You don't have to buy new servers, you don't have to rent new servers, and we also provide 24/7 support, premium support, and we do custom contracts for every individual user. Again, just some of the IPs working on GameSparks. We have these are games that are live at the minute. Lara Croft Relic Run, Square Enix are using us, as I mentioned. That's the next game then is Warhammer Freeblade. Hungry Shark's Evolution, which has about 20 million monthly active users. So there's a lot of high-profile studios using us with a lot with millions and millions of users. So we put this slide in here just to demonstrate the quality of games that we can manage and the scaling of games that we can manage. No studio should have to worry about how many users their game gets when it launched. You should be just excited that you're going to get 50 million users day one. You shouldn't have to worry, if I get 50 million users, it's going to break my game. That's a worry nobody wants to have. So yeah, just again, these are just going through some games that we have on the platform. It just talks about the type of features that we have. So with Lara Croft Relic One, we manage all the player profiles, we manage all the in-app purchases, the virtual goods, all the game management, all the game state management. And the same goes for Hungry Sharks, which I said has 20 million users. But these guys are using us for weekly events, weekly challenges, all that kind of good stuff that I was talking about earlier on. MMX Racing is a competitive racing game, a drag racing game, which again has over 10 million users, and this is another mobile game, and it's using us for their push notifications, the game state management, multiplayer management, matchmaking, all that good stuff I've been talking about that mobile games and console games are going to need or do need now going forward. So just to briefly summarize, GameSparks is basically an easy button for a CTO. What it is the tools are already built. They're already ready for you to use and plug into your game. All you got to do is import the SDK and start making your API calls. It saves you building all the logic for your leaderboards, all the logic for your matchmaking. It's already there. You plug it in, simple API calls to send everything back and forth to the server. Makes it really easy for the developers. Not only that, but it makes it easier for the producers then to manage the game once it launches. So, I mean, that's really it. So yeah, I'm Jamie. If you guys have any questions, feel free to throw your hand up and ask. Anybody? Yes, sir. Yeah. So yeah, so we have a complete currency management tool built into GameSparks where you can manage up to 6 currencies, and you would just have an if statement that checks if this player has completed this quest to reward them the relevant amount of currency. In the initial case, it was 10, but if you've changed it to 100, you can just redo that check upon authentication and then award them the relevant currency after the fact, basically. So yeah, that's 100% manageable from GameSparks. No problem. Anybody else? There's an ActionScript SDK, yeah, so you can plug it into Flash. It's not as supported as some of the more popular engines these days, but we do have one, and it is supported. It's just not used as much by developers at the minute because Flash, sorry to say, is a dying engine, which most of you would be aware about. But yeah, we do support it. That support may stop in the next year or so. But there is an SDK you're feel free to use, and there's documentation and all that stuff. Anybody else? Okay, well, thanks very much. I've been Jamie from GameSparks, and if you guys want to have a chat to me, I'm going to be here for the next half hour or so. Feel free to come up and have business cards or whatever. If you want to follow up with questions, feel free to do so. Thank you.